How to Fix the Traitors. No more family connections. No more job reveals. It means nothing! Traitors need to be incentivized to sabotage tasks. I'm not saying the show sucks, but I think it could be so much better. Hello and welcome to Fred Asquith on Film, with me, Fred Asquith, talking about film, TV and entertainment adjacent topics. You can find me at Fred Asquith on Film on TikTok and Instagram. Full stop. Oh, that is the best intro I've done so far. I'm getting to grips with this podcasting lark after 45 episodes. The title of this segment is How to Fix the Traitors. I'd like to assume that most of you listening to this are watching the new series of the UK version of the Traitors, which started off extremely strongly. We've had 9 episodes now, and the first 6 were really, really eventful, and also offered up some moments that were quite different to moments from previous seasons. Some strange gameplay, some strange reactions from Fiona and Harriet and whatnot. And now, after episode 9, it feels like the show is starting to fizzle out, or has fizzled out in a way that I think every series of the Traitors does at this point. Now, that's not to say that the finale doesn't have drama. I think the finales of all seasons of the Traitors always have drama just because of the nature of what a finale is. You know, they finally get to find out who a traitor is, or someone gets to win the money. That's always got drama. But I think that this sort of 3/4 point in every season of the Traitors tends to fizzle out. And this one's no different, because fundamentally the format of the game means, and we've seen this season more than ever, means that if you have a couple of traitors who are playing a good game, you know, intelligent game players, they're more likely to keep in boring players with a bit of heat. So how can we fix this game? 1, no more family connections. We had 2 family connections that we know of so far. That was Judy and Roxy and Ross and Ellie. They didn't add anything to the game. If you don't want to reveal that to the audience until it's already happened, then it is of no benefit to the audience, and it's also of no benefit to the game itself, because they're never going to reveal it until they've been outed, because if they did come into the show and be like, we're boyfriend and girlfriend, they're always going to get voted out. That diverts from actually intelligent gameplay, and therefore just makes those early stages just complete slop, because no one's got any good theories. They're just like, oh, well, we've got to make sure that this couple aren't, like, it's boring, right? No more job reveals. And as an extension to that, can we get it so that actually it's against the rules to mention your job? That would be fantastic. Rachel being like, I was trained by for 4 months in body language. Like, that means nothing. Like, I'd quite like a Formula 1-esque format. You know how in Formula 1, 2 drivers in the same team, they're essentially driving the same car, even though they can have different spec within that car, right? It'd be nice if they all came in. Yes, they're different ages, from different parts of Britain, but if they didn't mention their jobs, it would sort of be like a leveler, where it's like, okay, you don't get to sway me by saying you're an ex-criminal barrister or whatever, and equally you don't get to sway the game by saying that either, because I think it's just farcical. We saw with Amanda, she was a detective chief inspector. Her ideas were completely wrong. Harriet's were completely right, just by chance. But equally, Jessie, I've forgotten what Jessie's job is, but she was completely right too. I just don't think job has any bearing on the game, other than, again, diverting attention of the contestants towards jobs and what they may mean, rather than the game itself and logically trying to look for traitors. Another way we can improve this game: traitors need to be incentivized to sabotage tasks. I think whether that's traitors have their own pot of money, maybe, because at the moment the situation is that a traitor is not incentivized to sabotage a task because they want the pot of money to be big at the end as well, because they want to win the same pot of money. So we might need a new pot of money for the traitors. So the traitors have like a sub-task to every task, which builds their pot, potentially. There needs to be a reason for the tasks to be more dramatic, because at the moment, the tasks are bullshit because money-wise they mean nothing. Like they're all just trying to build up the same pot. And they're bullshit in the sense that they raise arbitrary suspicions based on arbitrary pieces of behavior. For example, James stealing the shield was deception in the fact that he stole a shield, but was actually extremely faithful behavior. And yet deception in and of itself is considered treacherous. Why? No reason at all. It's just because they're looking for anything, right? So make it so that the traitors are actually doing something. So that it's not just James stealing a shield and everyone is just so absent-minded that they're like, well, I guess it means something. Like, make it so that there is something to look out for. Rachel is trying to take a shield so that the other contestants can't get it, or is trying to get a question wrong, or something like that. Something that puts more suspicion, or it puts more people under suspicion potentially, and gives some more meaning to those tasks. And then finally, I think there should be a prize pot bonus for getting a traitor out early, because we're hearing more and more. We heard in the celeb version a lot from Joe Marler, but now also this version, it's not beneficial to get a traitor out early because they're just going to recruit another one. I think that's completely true. You know, if you do know for absolute sure who a traitor is, keep them close, don't get banished, don't get murdered, get them out at the end. So there needs to be an incentive for like getting a traitor out early. I'm saying this before the final 3 episodes, which I'm sure are going to be great. I'm sure it is. I hope it is. I'm not saying the show sucks. I'm like watching every single minute of it. But I think it could be so much better. I'm saying these things because I love it and I want it to succeed, you know. And I feel like we see the same problems every single week. Every single year, sorry. Sip my juice. Thanks for everyone who rated and reviewed, by the way, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please do that again. The review I want you to leave is FoF is on the up. 5-star review. If you don't give 5 stars, don't fucking bother. The second thing I want to talk about is I saw an interesting clip from the writer of the next James Bond movie, Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight is the creator and writer of Peaky Blinders. There was a clip of Stephen Knight talking about his process writing Bond. He is currently writing the Bond movie. And the interviewer asked him, you know, how's that writing process going? And Stephen Knight said, I'm really enjoying it. I obviously can't say anything. But the one thing he did say was, at this point, James Bond as a character, we're talking about a character from folklore, really. And what the examples he used was, he's like Robin Hood or King Arthur, i.e. like a British legend, ubiquity in British culture, rather than like an actual real thing, which I quite liked the idea of that. The reason why I'm mentioning it is because I think that's an interesting callback to Stephen Knight's work on Peaky Blinders, because I think a quality of the main character, Tommy Shelby, in that show, played by Cillian Murphy, is, I think, partly leaning into that folklore element of the entire era. I think Tommy Shelby as a character, the way that he's shot, and the music and the shadows and the smoke and the cigarette and the overcoat billowing, I think he has been actually positioned as like a almost folkloric figure. So that's clearly something that comes natural to Stephen Knight as a writer, and therefore, and I was a bit concerned about Stephen Knight being made the Bond writer because I don't think the Peaky Blinders writing is always up to scratch. Which is a whole other discussion. But since I've heard him say this in this junket, I'm like, oh, okay, if they've employed him on the basis of that quality, that certainly is a quality that Stephen Knight can probably contribute to something more than anyone. Bond as a folkloric figure is a really interesting concept. And what does that mean? You know, does that mean that he's going to be sort of less than he's made up to be? Or does that mean that he is, you know, Skyfall and Spectre were all about the degradation of Bond or Bond's role because of the advent of technology, and we've got drones and we've got all AI and things like this. And so do we still need a guy with a gun? Maybe this is an extension of that. Maybe it's sort of like, we've answered that question now. No, we don't actually need a guy with a gun. So now you're more of like a figure or a representation of Britain rather than actually someone actively doing things Anyway, I'm just spitballing, but I thought it was really interesting, and I'm now actually quite excited about what he's going to bring to Bond in that frame. Okay, and speaking of which, I say speaking of which because I'm going to talk about Hans Zimmer, and Hans Zimmer, he did the score for No Time to Die, which was the last Bond movie. So it's a mini segue, and it's been announced that Hans Zimmer and his production company, which is called Bleeding Fingers, are going to do the score for the new Harry Potter HBO TV show that is being filmed. I think it's finished filming the first 2 seasons now, which I thought was an interesting press release because it says Hans Zimmer and Bleeding Fingers, which is sort of a consortium of composers and musicians. I get this sense, you know, when Hans Zimmer started, like, oh, Hans Zimmer's going to do the score to Blue Planet 2 and stuff. I get this sense that Hans Zimmer's actually not been like phoning in his work, but has been like putting his brand on things that may have actually been a collective effort rather than just him. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like him as an entity or him as a name, a brand, has superseded his own actual input into any given project. And so now it's more important to have his name more than it is to actually have him. Anyway, I do suspect on that basis that Bleeding Fingers, that company, will be contributing more to this Harry Potter score than Hans Zimmer himself. But do I think Hans Zimmer is going to be involved? Yes. And on that point, I do think using Hedwig's theme, the theme that John Williams composed for the original movie series of Harry Potter, I think that's a deal breaker. I think now Hedwig's theme is as bound to the Harry Potter IP as the Imperial March is to the Star Wars IP. Like, I don't think you can do Harry Potter without that theme. The problem with that is, though, that I think it doesn't leave much scope for experimentation around that theme. So because Hedwig's theme is in sort of that John Williams style, because he composed it, anything that sits alongside it is going to naturally have to fit within that style to a certain extent, because it's going to be ever present in the show, and therefore the rest of the score sort of has to mold with it. And this is in my assumption that Hedwig's theme is even going to be in the new show. Maybe they don't do that, but my point is I think they should. So my hope that Hedwig's theme will be included actually means that it's quite a restrictive workspace for Hans Zimmer to operate within, and he's going to have to do something that is more traditionally orchestral in a John Williams style in order to suit being alongside that Hedwig's theme. So it's a tough spot to be, because a magic show, a show about a fucking boy who goes and learns magic, could call for quite an experimental score. You know, it doesn't have to sound like John Williams. That was just his interpretation. And yet, I think the composer of this show will have to colour within those lines. Sip of my juice. Last week I talked about movies that fumble the ending because I'd watched Mystic River, which was one of the worst endings to a quite decent film that I'd ever seen. And Edward on Insta DMs at Fred Asquith on Film sent in a suggestion for that, which was The Substance, which I thought was a really good suggestion. The Substance was a really tightly wound movie until the ending, where it sort of turned into this gore fest, which I don't think was really necessary to get across the point of the movie. Speaking of endings, I went this week again to rewatch 2 movies. I rewatched Hamnet at the cinema, it's kind of the opposite, which is like an unbelievable ending to an otherwise quite flawed movie. Go back to my review to hear more on that. And I also rewatched Bone Temple. This was on the same day, by the way. I went to Bone Temple and then I went and purged my soul in Hamnet. So I'm gonna just do a quick overview of like some thoughts that I've had from the reaction to Bone Temple, and in those thoughts I'm gonna give a few spoilers of Bone Temple. So if you haven't seen Bone Temple, look at the timestamps below, skip forward. There'll be some spoilers for Bone Temple coming up. So I've really enjoyed hearing the reaction to Bone Temple. I've really enjoyed hearing that the reaction is largely like how I felt about it. The Rotten Tomatoes scores are really high. People whose opinion I respect and trust also really enjoyed it. I've heard a few valid critiques as well, and one of those valid critiques really stuck with me and it sort of helped explain what I really liked about it in sort of conversely to it. So I heard someone say it's a great movie but not a great zombie movie, and that bothered them given that it's part of the zombie franchise. I thought that was a great critique. I think it's true, and I completely agree with that. There aren't that many zombies in 28 years. Again, reminder, spoilers. If you didn't hear, I'm going to be doing spoilers right now. And I can understand, as a fan of the franchise, how you might see that as a negative for this movie. And I actually completely respect that take. Personally, I liked that there were fewer zombies in 28 in Bone Temple, because I think it was more of a logical elaboration on the universe than the first 28 Years movie, which I still think was necessary, and I loved it in its own ways. But actually, if you think about it, if you relate it to the only possible relevant situation that we've ever experienced in this lifetime, which is COVID. When COVID began, we were all really scared. Well, give or take. And then 2 lockdowns in, we were all sick of it. I wasn't, but people were already starting to break lockdown protocol and things like that. So even in that short space of time, we were already kind of brushing off the virus and being like, oh, do you know what? I just want to live my life. I think the fact that there's fewer zombies in this accurately represents how humans would develop and get used to this situation. And I know the rage virus is not fucking COVID. People are turning into zombies and shit. So it's a little bit scarier. But I like the idea that 6 months after COVID, we didn't give a shit, or a lot of people didn't give a shit. 28 years after the rage virus, zombies would be part of the furniture, and they wouldn't really factor in on day-to-day life, because you already would have set up, as there are in this movie, big fences, locks, chains, safe houses, bunkers. You already sort of would be living your life again. And I love at points in this movie when characters pass by zombies and they just kill them offhand, they don't even really care. I love those moments because I think it's making that point that they're just part of the furniture. They're just not a threat to these people anymore. What is a threat? What the point the film is making is, what is a threat is human on human. It's Jack O'Connell's character and his crazy madcap religious beliefs, satanic religious beliefs. Another reason why I liked the movie on a similar vein is people are sort of understandably recoiling at this. Again, spoilers. Ray Fiennes' character, Dr. Kelson, is studying the virus. He's finding out if he can sort of cure the virus. And there are times in the movie, as you know, where he's dancing with the alpha zombie while the alpha zombie is sedated. I love that moment where we see Ray Fiennes' character dancing with the alpha through the binoculars, because for me, it again speaks to what we saw starting to develop in COVID. So 3 months into COVID, everyone was losing their fucking minds. None of us had left our house, more or less. I remember seeing a TikTok of a guy, he put lager in a kettle and turned the kettle on just to see what would happen. And it went, and the lager went everywhere, didn't it? It went bloody everywhere. That's such a huge jump from that to dancing with a zombie. But my point is that if you imagine COVID did go on for 28 years and we did have to have lockdown protocol or shielding, isolation, things like that, people would have lost their fucking minds. So extrapolate that out to this horror movie scenario of a rage virus, 28 years later, isolation. You can completely believe that Jack O'Connell and his troupe would exist with their crazy madcap beliefs. You can completely believe that Ray Fiennes would have started studying the virus and found it within him to touch zombies or try to cure zombies or even hold hands and dance with a zombie. That to me is actually a logical step for this universe to take. And the fact that it's not a zombie movie, which again I think is a valid critique, it's not. The fact that it's not a zombie movie is the point, in my opinion. The point is that the humans are now more of a threat to themselves again, not the zombies. And I'm interested to see how that develops in the third movie. You know, for anyone who's seen the movie, Dr. Kelson gives the Alpha some pills, and the pills appear to work in like marginally curing the virus. How is Alex Garland, the writer, going to reconcile that in the next movie? Like, now the audience are aware that the virus is fallible, the virus is curable with like, oh, not over the counter, but like standard prescription-y kind of pills. Where does that leave the world? Where does that leave the not the alphas, but the regular zombies? Thankfully, that's not my problem. Thankfully, I don't have to consider how to write myself out of that hole. Before we finish with my film journals, I just want to do a quick review of The Rip, which is the new Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movie. It's a new crime thriller on Netflix. It came out on the 16th of January. It's directed by Joe Carnahan, but I actually don't think that's relevant to the understanding of whether this movie is a good watch or not. Joe Carnahan has directed another Ben Affleck film in the past called Smoking Aces. He directed The Grey with Liam Neeson. He directed the A-Team reboot, which didn't go very well. He actually hasn't got a great filmography, but anyway, he's directed The Rip. That's not quite relevant. What's relevant is this is a Ben Affleck and Matt Damon movie produced by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, starring Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Do you get my point? And came out on Netflix and watched it on Friday night. It was good fun. I liked it. And I think that is actually all you maybe need to know to go and watch this movie. Because I was like, I put it on and I was like, okay, what am I really expecting from a Netflix movie right now? Okay, I just want to have a good time. I'm giving you my Friday night. Give me a good time. And it really fucking did. I thought the tension of the first 2/3 was fantastic. Sort of like a crime mystery thriller. And I'm not going to give anything away. And it hangs almost entirely, really, on the great performances, or performance style, I should say. I'm not going to say they're like legendary performances, but the performance style of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon is just eminently watchable. They're so good at simply being watchable and adding the right amount of depth to their characters. And equally, the chemistry between them two on screen is brilliant. And I love it that they're working together again on screen. And for anyone who hasn't seen The Last Duel, the Ridley Scott movie, which sort of reunited them on screen, go watch it. I thought it was really underrated Ridley Scott movie that came out during COVID. So yeah, their chemistry carries it a long way. It's got Tiana Taylor in it, hopefully, who's about to win an Oscar for one battle after another. And it was just perfect for a Friday night. It was nothing more, nothing less, and that's okay. And I want more of these movies, 3.5 out of 5. This is probably the shortest review I've ever done. And that is telling of like, what are you going to get from this movie? Like, not much, but like, I haven't forgotten about it. I haven't forgotten that I had a good time. The action choreography towards the end is not great, but the plot itself and the performances therein and just the way that it's shot and the way that it feels, the way that it looks, I liked it. Also, go watch this movie for another reason, because in case you didn't know, this movie is produced by Affleck and Damon, and it's their production company called Artists Equity. And the mission statement of Artist Equity is to pay the creatives and the cast and crew properly, dependent on the success of the movie. So rather than say, oh, this movie's got $100 million budget and we have to make $200 million at a box office in order to pay the movie back, but then it doesn't get paid back because movies aren't performing as well, and so therefore we don't make movies like this anymore. What they do is they pay people a lower upfront fee in order to keep the budget down, but then have bonuses based on the success and performance of the movie, which I think is a really, really progressive way to structure the finances of a movie. It means that you're going to get more adult movies taken a punt on, because it isn't life or death whether that movie makes a vast amount of money for the production company. It can make a moderate amount of money, make its money back, and then encourage people to make more of these sort of mid-budget movies. And so go watch this movie, because Netflix agreed that if the movie has a certain amount of viewing hours in the first 90 days, then the cast and crew get performance-based bonuses. And since I think the movie is a decent watch, go watch the movie, get those viewing hours racked up, and get that cast and crew their bonus, because I think they deserve it. Now, the big finale I want to finish with my top movies of all time, 2008, which is a list I found buried in my Google Drive. And I opened it up squinting and wincing because I was like, oh my God, what embarrassing shit am I going to have in my top 100? So at that point, I was 15 years old. That's 18 years ago. So I am now 32, just about to turn 33. Let me give you... Okay, do you know what? I'm going to read the top 10 out. Number 10, The Prestige. Okay, do you know what? Okay, it's a 15-year-old's movie to like, and I would have just seen it at that point. Number 9, Control. That's an odd one. That's the movie about Ian Curtis, the singer of Joy Division, directed by Anton Corbin, and it's a really, really good biopic. Wouldn't be number 9 in my top 10 now, I'll just say that. Number 8, Saving Private Ryan. Fair play. Saving Private Ryan, I think, it's a legitimately great movie. Would it be in my top 10? No. Number 7, Zodiac. I think potentially is my second favourite David Fincher behind 7, but I'm not sure I'd seen 7 at this point, so fair enough. I'm not surprised I was wowed by that as a kid. Number 6, Gladiator. Gladiator is still in my top 10. The Dark Knight at number 5. I mean, if you were a 15-year-old in 2008 and you didn't have The Dark Knight in your top 10 movies, were you even 15? Number 4, Swingers. That's a Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn comedy. I love Swingers. I think Swingers has the potential to still be in my top 10. It's a 5-star movie for me. Seminal comedy. Number 3, This Is England. The Shane Meadows movie with Thomas Turgoose as the kid and what's his name? Stephen Graham. Fantastic movie. Wouldn't be in my top 10, but I think it's a pick that's aged well because the This Is England TV shows that subsequently came on Channel 4 were equally very, very good. Number 2, There Will Be Blood. The best pick of the bunch. I would say that is now still number 1 or 2 around Whiplash, Interstellar. I love that I was early to the party on that one. I don't mean in terms of everyone, all adults. Obviously, all the adults knew that was really good. But I mean, I was early to the party, and for my age, I think I'm happy that I liked that at that point. Number 1, Sideways, the Alexander Payne wine tour movie, which is a crazy film for a 15-year-old to have as their favourite movie, but I do find it super funny. I find myself relating to that movie more and more as I get older, closer to the ages of the characters, but why I enjoyed it so much at 15, I'm not sure. What's interesting about looking at a list like this is that you do see yourself sort of taking influence from adults because you sort of think, they must be right, or I respect their opinion, or, oh, my mum and dad like this movie, so I want to like this movie. And I definitely think that did push up Sideways for me at the time, because for now, it would be in my top 50, but it wouldn't be in my top 10. Looking down the top 100, picking out some interesting ones, The Emperor's New Groove at number 18, fair play. It would still be in my top 25, don't at me. Interesting, listen to this, considering what's come out recently. At number 13, 28 weeks later. Not days. I can't even see 28 days later. Oh, number 78. 28 days later, number 78. Number 13, 28 weeks later. I think it's an underrated movie, by the way. But to put it at number 13 is the most 15-year-old thing to do ever. Recency bias alert. Wah, wah. Number 38, Lost in Translation, would be a lot higher for me now. I think that makes sense. I think as you sort of grow into watching that movie, it's naturally going to go up. Number 40, Titanic, is way higher for me now, to the point where it's actually in my top 4 Letterboxd movies. Other random ones. Number 47, Dan in Real Life, the Steve Carell comedy. What the fuck? Also, there's quite a lot of movies in here that I legitimately don't like, and I think I was just putting them in there because I felt almost peer pressured by the accepted wisdom on a movie. I don't like Pulp Fiction at number 59. I had it at number 59 because I thought I was supposed to like it, and now I can say it with my chest. I don't like Pulp Fiction, and if you want to debate, I keep nearly saying Pulp Kitchen. If you want to debate that with me, DM me. I think Pulp Fiction sucks. Number 62, Reservoir Dogs, is a much better movie than Pulp Fiction. I would have that higher than Pulp Fiction now. I love that as well. I went over 100 because I've got number $100 Million Baby, which I have not seen, I think, since 2008. Number 101, Amelie. And I know that was definitely an adult influence of like, I think everything around at the time was very pro Amelie. I think Amelie was like in the zeitgeist as being like, this is a great movie. And I think I just like wanted to include the fact that I'd seen it, but like didn't really like it. So I put it at 101. I think the lesson is number 23, Punch Drunk Love. I think the lesson is there is recency bias at every stage in your life, and you're never going to have a definitive, this is my absolute, completely ironclad top movies of all time. It's never possible. What I also think is okay is to allow yourself to have different perspectives on movies at different stages in your life. And just because one perspective was when you were young doesn't mean it's silly or wrong. You know what I mean? So, for example, me having 28 Weeks Later at number 13, it's okay to like be a 15-year-old and really like 28 Weeks Later, because let's be honest, it was probably made for 15-year-olds. Casino Royale at number 14. I mean, like, to be fair, I'd actually do stand by that. Maybe, I'm sure I'll look back in, how long has it been? How long has it been? Yeah, 18 years. Fucking hell, 18 years from now. I'm sure I'll look back at my top movies now and think, well, that was coloured by the age I was and what was in the zeitgeist and what was cool to like or what had come out recently. And it always has to be. The beauty of enjoying art is it has to be a purely subjective medium. There is no objectivity. Not me, not Mark Commode, not the Time Out Top 100, not the New York Times, no one. Nothing is objective. Not IMDb, not Letterboxd ratings. Like, the only experience of movies that matters is a subjective experience from you on that day, you know? And that's what I think is really important to keep in film criticism, which is why I said what I said about The Rip. You know, I put it on Friday night, I had a good time. Am I going to think that if I put it on in 18 years from now? Maybe not. But that's okay. I think it's okay. And I think that me being like such a sort of like, I'm a list guy, you know, I like things being organized. I like things being definitive. And I think sometimes it's nice to look back at this and think nothing is ever definitive, you know, or conversely, maybe everything is definitive in the moment that you say it. So like this was definitive for me and I've dated it, Saturday the 4th of October, 2008. This was definitively my top 100 movies, and that's all that matters. It was definitive for then, and now my top is definitive for now. And speaking of things that are really cute and subjective, just going to dive into my film journals that I've brought to this episode. So I've got 3 journals. I'm not going to fucking read through them all like fucking War and Peace, but I remember my my auntie bought me this first book. I think it was for Christmas. Christmas 2007. So very similar to this era that I'm reading the best films, actually. It's just a way to essentially like do Letterboxd before Letterboxd existed. It's just like every page has like title, write the title, write the director, write who stars in it, write what date you saw it, write the genres, give it a rating, and give your review of it. My first ever review in one of these journals, in my film journal from 2007, was I Am Legend. I've got my ticket stub there in the top right. I Am Legend, starring Will Smith, saw it on 30th of December 2007. Surprised me in its composure, brackets script-wise, and maturity in filmmaking and shots. Oh, that's so cute. I don't really know what that means. All in a good way. How would that be in a bad way? A weak 4-star. I gave it 4 stars. But a completely unique take on the overused premise. Does that mean zombies potentially? Also, the CGI wasn't bad. Capitals, exclamation mark. I think I must have been like reading that people were thinking the CGI was bad. That as a piece of writing is just pure. It's really diabolical, isn't it? Oh, I love this review. Look at this. Dan in Real Life, which I just commented on, was strangely at number 47 in my top 100 movies. So I saw Dan in Real Life, the Steve Carell comedy, lesser known Steve Carell comedy, and probably for good reason. I saw it on 12th of January 2008. I give it a 3.75 out of 5, and I've made sure to put an arrow between the 3 and the 4-star tick box to ensure that that's correctly communicated. My review. I liked this. I knew I would from when I saw the trailer. I didn't like it in an amazing way, quote unquote, more of a relaxed way. It was easy to watch and it wasn't scrabbling to be liked. I just did. Expected it to be more emotive though. Oh, fuck. 3.75 out of 5, which apparently got you to number 47 in my top 100 of all time. Turns out I've always been harsh with ratings, guys. Do you know what's funny about this? So I mentioned I had Amelie at number 101 of my top 100 movies. Do you know what's funny is that I found my review of watching Amelie, right? 4 stars. It's number 101, and yet it's got a higher rating than Dan in Real Life that was at number 47. But anyway, my review: poignant, unique, cute, memorable, masterful, oddly gripping, nostalgic, très bien. I wouldn't say it's perfect. Brackets TF. What does that mean? Brackets TF. I wouldn't say it's perfect. TF. No idea what TF means. But nice, enjoyable, and only slightly lacking in story at about the 1 hour mark. 4 out of 5. Do you know what's funny about that review? I don't remember watching Amelie. Like, I don't think I've really seen Amelie. I've talked about this so many times on the pod. I think it's a really real thing to like harvest movies when you're younger, harvest movies that other people say are good. And like, I think I was like skim watching these things. I don't do it anymore, just to quell any fears you may have about my reviews. But like, I think at the time I was like, oh my God, Amelie, everyone loves Amelie. I must watch Amelie, and put it on, and I'd be like, not really watching, or maybe not digesting it in my small brain that hadn't fully developed a frontal lobe. Like, I don't remember Amelie. And I've had this with Godfather Part 2. Oh my God, this is relevant. I started watching Godfather Part 2 yesterday. We're splitting it in half, me and my darling wife, because she's pregnant and she gets tired. Okay. Fuck off. So we split it in half. We watched an hour and a half last night, watched an hour and a half tonight. I'm really enjoying it. And about 20 minutes in, I was like, yeah, I've never seen this before. I would have sworn to you a month ago, yeah, I've seen Godfather Part 2. But that was on the basis of me having watched it when I was probably around this age, like 15, 16, and just like not digesting it or not watching it properly, or I don't know what I was doing. But I have not seen Godfather 2 until now. I'm watching it for the first time. Really? Like, whether or not I did watch it, maybe I've just forgotten it. Like I say, my frontal lobe had not developed. But the point is that like, you need to watch these again as an adult to re-digest them as an adult. Oh my God, my review of Cloverfield and There Will Be Blood came within 2 days of each other. 14th of February and 15th of February, I saw Cloverfield and There Will Be Blood. Ticket stub for both of them there. Cloverfield, 4.25 out of 5. What the fuck am I doing with my points? My 0.75s and my 2.5s. Cloverfield was at number 43 in my top 100 movies list. Just for originality and execution, as you can't think about anything else when you're watching it, brackets, this is a masterpiece in its own right. Not the best ever, quote unquote, like fanboys say it, but it will stand the test of time and is excellent. Listen to this, me arguing with myself. Not the best ever, like fanboys say, but it will stand the test of time and is excellent, unbelievable, and amazing. Oh my God. Monsters are good too. Oh, fuck. 4.25 out of 5. Anyway, on to the main event. There Will Be Blood, my second favourite movie in 2008, and possibly still my second or first now. 5 stars. The first full 5-star tick that I've seen. Not overly pretentious, overbearing, or overlong. Thanks for clarifying, Fred. Thank you for clarifying that. Maybe that's because I suspected it might be. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like the lady doth protest too much. Why are you coming out the trap saying it's not over pretentious, overbearing, or overlong? Okay. It's not a film where you see it, love it. It's not a film where you see it, love it, then see it a second time and think it's worse. Brackets, i.e. Pan's Labyrinth. Oh! Shots fired at Pan's Labyrinth. I think Pan's Labyrinth is great. I'd actually love to watch Pan's Labyrinth again. I love how I've started my review of a 5-star movie by saying it's not over-pretentious, overbearing, overlong, or a film where you see it, love it, then see it a second time and think it's worse. That's half of the space that I have to write text in, taken up by things that it's not. Oh, another not. Not so much a wow factor as a speechless one. Script and Daniel Day are the standouts. Bro, I waited until the final line to give one piece of critique. Script and Daniel Day are the standouts. You know what? Fair enough. Stand by it. Oh, this is a fucking stonker. Indiana Jones 4 Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I've already given it some shade because I put Indy 4 Kingdom of can't remember. Obviously couldn't you? Directed by Stevie Speedboat, starring Harry and Shia. I viewed this on the 27th of May, 2008. I gave it a 2-star, and I've also shaded it in advance because in the genre section, I've ticked sci-fi fantasy, and I've put an arrow to it saying it shouldn't be. Oh, I was really cooking on the 27th of May, 2008 with this review. Do you know what? It's right. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be sci-fi fantasy. But it was, wasn't it? It was fucking aliens. I know the Ark of the Covenant and the fucking cup and the fucking... I know. Okay. But Crystal Skull just took it too far. For an indie movie, this is a 1-star. But I've given it 2. So what does that mean? For an indie movie, it's a 1. But for a movie, it's a 2? How does that make sense? Surely it would be the opposite. Anyway. For an indie movie, this is a 1-star. I'm just going to list and elaborate on the rights and wrongs of this film, right? There's another piece of paper. It says, see paper. There's a whole A4 sheet. Let me just open this up. A whole A4 sheet of why Crystal Skull sucked. It started off well, besides the chipmunks, with set in the 50s and Russian tone. If it hadn't swayed from that, it would be perfect. Then the nuclear blast. That isn't indie, I thought. It was like a juxtaposed. I've literally written juxtaposed. It was like a juxtaposed spoof of hellish indie movies. Seeing him with colourful scenery, from then on, it didn't seem like the indie verve tone. There's so many points there. I can't read all of these. Too much plastic special effects. The script was weak. Spielberg trying too hard. Structure all wrong. No indie alone. He's always with people. Too religiously. Too supernatural. Spielberg isn't who he used to be. That's point 9. Spielberg isn't who he used to be. He's now a matured, serious director who can't do family-friendly thing. Yeah, that's fair. Do you know what? Fair. That's a critique I've said preeminently for Disclosure Day coming out this summer. Can he do that? You know what? Fair play. I stand by that one. And then in giant letters, it's not an indie movie. It was as if they gave the film to Michael Bay or something. Oh! The Dark Knight. Oh, I've got The Dark Knight. I've got my little ticket from The Dark Knight. Sat in seat H18. I went to see it at my local cinema in Scarborough, the Hollywood Plaza. Batman, The Dark Knight. I've put Batman, The Dark Knight in the title section. Clearly, I thought it was a big moment where I had to preface it with Batman. Directed by Christopher Nolan, a.k.a. God, is what I've put here. Fair. This is seeing this movie at 15 years old... There is no better moment than that. The Dark Knight at 15. Can you imagine how much that's fucking slapped on opening night? 24th of July. Is it? Yeah, 24th of July 2008. 4.75 out of 5. Ooh, just holding back 0.25 there. The Batman film I've been waiting for since my Batman Begins disappointment. You know, I still don't really like Batman Begins. The whole cast, especially Heath, were amazing. In that, along with just pure sublime script and camera work, plunged comic bookism into realism. Okay. Cool, exciting. Oh, I love it when I do this. What's this? Cool, exciting, not boring. I love it when I say the not things. Cool, exciting, not boring, iconic, and classic. Bloody hell, I really went in on The Dark Knight. Do you know what? It is, isn't it? It is iconic and classic. Anyway, so that's actually, do you know what? I've just finished, just had a flick through the 2008 journal. I have a 2009 and 2010 journal. If anyone's enjoyed this, let me know, and I will go through 2009, 2010 in a future episode. I think actually it probably deserves space rather than me just like skimming through, because I think some of this is fucking hilarious. And if any of you guys have any opinions on movies that you stand by, don't stand by, are embarrassed by, or you've grown into movies, grown out of movies, let me know, because I think it's a really interesting and like quite sweet discussion to have. Let's read the FoF disclaimer. Movie criticism is subjective, and my opinion is just as subjective as yours. Nothing I say affects your right to enjoy or not enjoy a movie, nor do I seek to deny your totally valid view and experience. And today is the day where we've truly learned that movie criticism is subjective, even within your own life. Okay, what a moral of the story to take on this week. Thank you very much for listening. At Fred Asquith on Film, TikTok and Instagram. Next week, please give me a review, please. Please give me a review, please. Please give me a review. FoF is on the up. 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Next week, we are going to be going through what's been nominated for Oscars. The Oscar nominations come out next week. We're also going to review The History of Sound, which is starring Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor. We're also going to review an Is This Thing On, which is the Bradley Cooper, Will Arnett stand-up comedy movie. So it's a good week next week. Join me then at Fred Asquith on Film, TikTok and Instagram. Leave a review. Just going around in circles saying the same things. Bye.